Boom. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to this week's episode of Common Sense, the podcast. Super excited for this show. You guys give a big, warm welcome to my good buddy Oliver, man. What's going on, brother?
Man, loving it. Living out on the East Coast, but then, coming out to visit Texas, I'm loving it.
Yeah, man. I'm super excited to have you out here, man.
Here we go.
Yeah, we got it.
You set me up for failure on that one.
I tried.
That was well done.
I tried.
Well played.
One every now and then.
Well played.
Yeah. So, for those of you that don't know, Oliver is the Director of Operations for United Cigars.
Yes, sir. That's it. If we're talking about titles and...
Talking about titles and all the cool stuff, so we get all the fancy stuff out of the way real quick. So, I'm going to hit this right off the bat before we do this. Like, everybody, because I'm so bad about this, but since this is going to be a really cigar-focused conversation for the most part, everybody always wants to know what we're smoking. So, we brought out the big guns for this show because Oliver's here. So, what better thing to do than to share the best cigar you've ever smoked in your life with really good friends? So,
that's humbling.
Me, Biz, Oliver are smoking the Atabey Black Ritos.
I got mine.
If you get a chance, I've said this before, buy one, smoke one, because these are super limited. And again, this is better than the first cigar I ever smoked. This is the best cigar I have ever smoked in my entire life, I think.
Wow.
I can't think of anything that comes close to it. And, I mean, it is what it is. Black Ritos, I mean, like, hands down. Like, how this hasn't won, like, everything so far is beyond me. Maybe because it's so limited that not everybody has tried it.
Right. Well, yeah, not everybody probably has tried it, but also with limited editions. Mm-hmm. Some I guess bloggers, magazines, they're hesitant to rate it or put it in their list because it's not accessible everywhere.
Yeah.
So this is not only it's a limited production, 200 boxes, 5,000 cigars are made for this production, one size. But it also only went out to 10 retailers across the country.
Yeah, 10 across the whole U.S.
Whole U.S. And that was mapped out. And look, we want to share it. I would love to be able to share it with more of our retail partners, right?
Yeah.
But because of the limited production, when this first came out, we sat down with Nelson and via Skype because I'll touch base with him on a regular basis, and he mentioned that he had this project he was working on, and it was Atabey Black Ritos. It was like, and he showed, and he's amazing because digitally and visually he's got so much talent that he puts this image together of the Atabey Black Ritos, the cigar laying on this black lacquered box, and it looks real, and it's 100% fake. He's like, no, I haven't done the box yet. This is just a concept, an idea. And I created the Atabey Black because I wanted to see what it would be like with a darker wrapper. Because he's experimented with it in the past, but even smaller productions just to see. So Atabey was always known as a cigar with a light Ecuadorian wrapper.
Yeah.
So then he tells me that he's got this cigar that's been aging for a couple of years, and it'll be ready. Just a few, as a tester. But he's always done that. Anytime he comes out with a new blend, it's usually around 5,000 cigars. So he tells me he's got the Atabey Black Ritos, so one size that he's had aging, and he's like, "What do you think? It will be ready in a few years. What should we do? Do you think it's good? Do you think people will accept the Atabey with a darker wrapper?" I said, Nelson, it looks phenomenal. I said, if it's your work, it has to be something good.
It's going to be decent.
It's got to be good. Right, above decent, right?
The Mendoza line is like here, and everything that he puts out is like here.
Right, it's special.
Yeah.
Because he legitimately obviously takes his time with it, but he puts the cigars through a process, which is different than anything that we produce through United or cigars in the industry. But so when he was talking about this, it was, well, then how do we present it? How are we able to share it? How do we communicate it to people when it's such a limited cigar? And it's only one facing on a shelf, and it's only 200 boxes. So this was before not before NFTs became NFTs. NFTs were starting to become a thing. Mm-hmm. And when I looked at it, there were no cigar NFTs. So we said, look, it's a concept, and in a lot of different industries, they present something that isn't real. It's futuristic. It's it's different, and they just get the feedback from everybody. So
So which one of the apes did you buy? I feel like you probably have the ape that has like the Grateful Dead T-shirt on or something.
I wish I bought it at a low price. I don't even know what that goes for, but some of those were going crazy prices.
Millions of dollars.
I think, yeah, it came up. I just heard it over the radio. I was listening to Fox News, and I heard him talking about NFTs. Yeah. I'm like, the hell's an NFT? So we said, all right, let's come up with an NFT for it, and it's very easy, very simple for Nelson to come up with it, and just kind of reproduced 25 of them for the singles that we put out there, and then 10 boxes, and that was it. We were just going to sell the NFTs, and then eventually come out with the cigar. But we didn't say we were coming out with a cigar right away because it wasn't ready, and we had to be sure it was good. We thought it was going to be good anyway, but let's just come out with the NFT. So we released the NFT in 2021, maybe 2022, something like that, and boy, did we hit a wall. Everyone was like, an NFT cigar? That doesn't make any sense. You want me to buy something that you can't smoke? This is ridiculous. What does our industry come to? Blah, 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 blah. Well, then you fast forward a year, and then you had NFTs that were coming out that went up for auction. We sold the NFT for the box price, $1,200. So if you wanted to buy the NFT, it was $1,200 for the box, and if you wanted to buy a single, it was $50.
Yeah.
And so that's how we wanted to present it. So in the end, we ended up selling 5 NFTs, and we have 5 United branded lounges. We have the Atabey Lounge here at Industrial Cigars, and then we have a couple other lounges out there. So that's what ultimately we decided to spread the Atabey love out to just the 10 retailers. So it's a pretty special, and Industrial Cigars being the first branded lounge and an Atabey lounge, they got a little more love. So.
Yeah, I mean, it was crazy. I mean, I heard your reaction when Pops called you. It was like, Pops and I were having like a little battle. Like, I think I bought 3 right when they came out. I was like, all right, I'm getting me 3.
Right.
And then I started seeing how fast the boxes were going, and I'm like, and this cigar was so amazing. I was like, all right, I got to go back in. I walked back in, and there were 7 cigars in a box.
Wow. Yeah.
And I asked one of the employees here, I was like, he saw me pick one up. I sat back down, I was like, well, I still have 2. He goes, if you're thinking about it, do it. He goes, that's the last box. I was like, oh, wait, it's been like 3 days.
Right.
Like, I know there's a certain member here that buys a ton, like right out the gate. So I knew that was, all right, half of them are gone.
Right.
But at $1,200 a box, I didn't expect these others were going to go that fast.
Right.
And he's like, there's 7 cigars in here. I'm like, that's the last of the last? He's like, no, that's the last until we get another shipment, if we get another shipment. I was like, all right, give me 4 of them. So I bought 4 more. He goes, because the other guy that's sitting in the lounge right now smoking one, he said whatever's left when he finished that cigar, he's buying.
Wow, yeah.
Pops ended up, I think he smoked 1 other than the one that Nelson gave him at PCA that year. Like, and Pops like, what the hell? Like, there's none even for me to buy.
Right.
Like, he tried to make sure they were available for all of us, and he kind of got screwed out of it.
Right.
Like,
that's what,
this time when we heard they were coming back out, like, everybody was like, and they had a problem with the app at first. Like, I mean, I felt so bad for Brandon getting ready to go out of town and everything. And everybody's just blowing everybody up because, like, the link's not working. And we all know they're going to go fast again because even at $1,200 a box, if you know, and you know it's worth doing that.
Right.
So
and it's time. I mean, you say it's worth it. Well, that's how you evaluate your time for the next 2 hours. Is it worth it for the $50 a cigar? And it's. Yeah, I mean, to me, I smoked through our portfolio. We, in United, we have over 25 different lines. So I've smoked through our portfolio, and I think, there's a lot of good stuff. I've smoked through all of Nelson's line, and it's very good stuff. And then this was special. This was very special.
It's just so different. Yeah. And I mean, it takes me back to like the first cigar I can remember smoking was like a Cuban Cohiba. Fake, not fake. I have no idea. I'm in a tropical destination and bought one, and like that's what got me hooked. Right. And then I think the second one I smoked was a Romeo and Juliet, wherever I was, Aruba or wherever, and it was like, these are amazing.
Yeah.
And then you come back to the U.S. not knowing, and you go buy another Cohiba, and you're like, why doesn't this taste the same? Like this is like so far off.
Right. Yeah, and sometimes you fall in love with. what you're smoking in the moment.
Yeah.
Right. So, but yeah, in your case, it was different because you're talking about a Cuban to a domestic.
And sometimes it's the atmosphere. I mean, there's so many things affect what you think of a cigar in that moment. Like, what did you eat that day?
Right.
What are you drinking?
Yeah, big
How
factors.
is your palate right now? Like, have you been wrecking your palate like constantly?
Right.
Like, you have no idea. And sometimes it's the company and the experience too. Like
100%.
that can change the cigar 1,000%.
Yeah. No, I've been in that lounges, or everyone's got a different ventilation system where they have fans going, and or the front door open, or different cases. So all that can play into the cigar experience.
Yeah.
Fans blowing on one side, well, that can make the cigar just not burn consistently, or it just changes the way you feel if there's something constantly blowing on the side of your face.
Yeah.
So yeah, if you're sitting on a beach, I mean, there's probably not a lot that won't taste good. But for those that aren't familiar with Atabey Black, and you as well, what makes it special? Why is it? It's not only the limited production that kind of raises and elevates that price.
Yeah.
Right. Atabey in general goes through a 5-year aging process, and all of Selected Tobacco's lines go through this process. And that's what I want to stress, because aging, like, we can shut the doors on Industrial Cigars in the front, come back in 5 years, and we can all agree that everything in this building is 5 years old.
Yeah.
Right? The cigars have been aging. They've been, say the humidity and the temperature just sat at 70. So they would be 5 years old. And that's what I used to know as a 5-year-old cigar. But what Nelson does with his lines, from Bandolero to Atabey to Byron, the Alfonso line, Byron 1850, he puts them through a different process of aging. So he'll use 5 different cedars in his aging rooms. He uses Cuban, Spanish, Mexican, Brazilian, and Lebanese. And then he'll put the cigars in one aging room for the first year. And that first year is to remove any additional impurities, any small traces of ammonia that may have been left from the fermentation process. But even that fermentation process is different. Any processes it longer because he wants to make sure everything is out. So it goes through that first year. After the first year, he'll make sure he goes in the room. He doesn't smell any impurities. It smells clean, sweet. He says the cedar in the cigars, it's like this sweet smell. Then they go into a separate aging room where they'll continue the aging process. So Bandolero will add another year, possibly anywhere from it could be a few months to another year.
Yeah.
Byron, depending on the line, and it's notated on the band, there's a secondary band that will say 3 años, 4 años, or 5 años. They'll go through an additional aging process. And then Atabey, minimum of 5 years. And that process is lowering humidity and then raising it back up. So when you lower humidity, the cigar is obviously drying, but it's shrinking. So as it shrinks, it's purging any other impurities because he wants everything that's in the center of the cigar to flush out. And then when it expands, breathing in all the cedar notes, because he over-humidifies it. So now it's breathing in all the different cedar notes, because the cedar will absorb the moisture droplets from the humidifier, remove any other impurities in the water, but then when it goes back into the humidor, it's picking up all the wood notes. And those then dive into the cigar by over-humidifying it. So it goes through that process for those additional years. He then took it another step further with Alfonso Añejo, Alfonso Grand Selection, Byron 1850, and the Atabey Black, where he started using French oak in the aging rooms. So they take on another dynamic, and some I found, like the Grand Selection and the Byron 1850 took on a stronger French oak note, but the Atabey Black, for me, just takes on like another. That wrapper really plays a part in that Atabey blend.
And doesn't it have like longer years too on it?
It ages a little bit, a little bit longer than the 5 in that other room. So it takes another at least another year in that with that French oak. But this darker Ecuadorian wrapper changes the complexity, but it adds body to an Atabey, but it's just so clean and smooth on the palate, and it's just like we're drinking finer tequila. It's a blanco, but when you look at the different ages from a blanco to a reposado to a añejo, extra añejo, those colors change based on the woods and the aging, and the heat's removed, but all the complexity stays, and that's Atabey Black, which is just
Let me tell you something. I just took up my first pull. I just checked. My credit score went up 72 points.
that's not the cigar. That's because you're sitting in the room with us.
Yeah.
Either way, I'll take it. But man, something happened. I got a FICO alert, and I looked. I said, "Damn, 70." Let me take another draw. I'll get back with you in a second. Hold on.
And for those that are wondering too, we did what we're smoking. We're also what we're drinking. We are drinking Fortaleza tequila. Neat.
The Blanco.
So that's what we're drinking. That's what we paired with it.
Do we go with Fortaleza or we go with the Siete?
Oh, no. We did. Did we switch it at the last one? Yeah. No, we did the 7 Ligas.
Yeah, 7 Ligas.
We did switch
both,
that up.
Both very good.
Yeah.
And if they're looking to sponsor, they're more than welcome.
Yeah, please. If either of you want to sponsor, we're in for that, for sure. What's up, Josh Sims? Welcome to the show. So tell everybody a little bit about your background. Let's jump back. We got real hard on what we're smoking and drinking here real quick, which I usually fail to do at times, and then I get beat up on here, because we didn't talk about it enough. But tell everybody a little about where'd you grow up? What's your background before Cigar World?
Wow, yeah. Before Cigar, so if we kind of look back, because we were just talking about East Coast, and you were in Connecticut.
He's a Boston guy.
I'm a Boston guy. I don't have the accent because maybe if I'm drinking and I'm with buddies, and then it just kind of comes out. But I was born in Boston. My father was in the hotel business, so we, kind of moved around a bit. So it was Boston for a year or two, then moved to Chicago. Younger brother was born. My older brother was born in France with the rest of my family. That's over there. But Chicago for a couple of years, then Chicago to Milwaukee for 2 years, and then we were in London in there at some point, I think before that, and then we moved to Milwaukee for like 8 years, then New York City for a year, then back to Boston for my high school years, college years, and then I moved out to Las Vegas. When I moved out to Las Vegas, I had already been smoking cigars. I never got into cigarettes. My dad was a cigar smoker. I had family members that were cigar smokers, so I used to, take his cigars from his humidor when I was 16 was my first one, and then I just kind of started getting into them. And my first box of premium cigars that I bought was actually a box of 10, but it was the Te Amo, which is a Mexican blend. And I bought that my senior year of college. Went to BC, graduated with a marketing degree, and started to work in Boston. And used to visit LJ Peretti, which is one of the oldest cigar shops in the country. It's where I would pick up my cigars. I went to a few shops there, and then I moved in '97 out to Las Vegas. And I was just doing freelance graphics. I was just smoking cigars. I moved from the North End, where I was paying $1,200 for a studio, out to Vegas with two buddies, where we were paying $900 for a 3-bedroom. So it was like, we were living on top of the world.
Live.
Yeah, right. And so I was doing tray liners for like Carl's Jr. I was doing flyers and business cards and things like that for a couple of radio stations. And then I was like, wow, I got some free time. Why don't I look up in the phone book, out of all things, right? The cigar shop. If I work there, I can probably get a discount. I can smoke cigars and just have a good time. So looked these guys up, started working for a company out there, and that turned into 14 years in the cigar business. So started out in the shops, and they asked me to, a couple months, I managed one of their newer locations, and within the first year, they brought me into the office to do their marketing and started doing web design, and then that turned into manufacturing. We had our own, a couple lines there that I worked on with them. And then we started getting into more, I guess, hospitality, because the stores that we had about 12 retail locations. We had cigarette hostess programs, wholesale. So it was, a little different because they were in the casino. So there was, the identity of the company and the shop was more geared towards what the casinos vibe was. So like at the Rio is Mardi Gras cigar. So anyway, fast forward, we started getting more into cigar bars, and the first venture was the Casa Fuente bar at Cedars. So that was a partnership. And then they opened up a restaurant, Tacos and Tequila, which got me back into tequila. So that was, Casa Fuente was 2004. Tacos and Tequila was 2007. 2009, we opened up Rum Bar at the Mirage, and then we were getting more into hospitality, and that's where I kind of got away and left the company after 14 years in 2011. Moved out to Utah, Salt Lake City, and helped a friend of a friend open up a restaurant out there. And then after a year, moved out. We went to California with the family, with my ex-wife and 2 kids. And then we were trying to figure out what coast are we going to be on, and ended up getting a hospitality job at the Hilton, director of food and beverage there. And then a couple of years after that, 2016, I had a old friend from Boston who was in the cigar business that I met again in Las Vegas because he had launched the One-Off cigar. And that was Paul Giacalone, who used to own Gloucester Street Cigar in Boston. So we had a good connection. And so I fast forward again, I'm in Boston. He's like, hey, let's go up and have a cigar. We're going to go listen to podcasts up there and the Cigar Authority, and I'm going to go sit and have a cigar. So I went up there, struck a conversation with David Garofalo, and then he was telling me about United Cigars. There was no real representation. There was nobody traveling, talking about these brands. And we kind of sat down, and the first cigar he gave me was Atabey, and I had never heard of it. He told me like the price point of what it was, and I was like, wow, Vegas, we sell cigars at $20, and it's expensive. The Macanudo Portofino was $20 on a cigarette hostess tray, which was offensive. But you have a captured audience there at a table; they can't go anywhere else. Yeah. So it was just what it was. And but I remember sitting down, and he gave me an Atabey Brujos, and it just rocked my world. I was like, I've never smoked anything like this. Yeah, like this is unique. There's something very interesting.
It's very different.
And as I'm smoking it, he's talking to me about the man behind it, Nelson Alfonso, and he's talking about Selected Tobacco and what he does. And he's like, look, I don't know a lot of information. We picked up distribution in 2012, and we go to the PCA show once a year. We don't reach out to retailers after that. There's no communication because we don't have the staff to do it. So we see them once a year. And but I think with your background, because of the conversations we had, with your background, and if you really like it, we could use somebody like you. And he said it would be yours. Take it and figure out what to do. Obviously, he's by my side. He's the one cutting the checks. But he put his faith in me, which I'm very thankful for and very appreciative and humbled that he did that and just kind of let me run with everything. And all I did, and Nelson, he's like, oh, it's great what you guys have done with the brand. You've expanded. I said, all I did was, I kid with Nelson because he is an artist. I said, I did, I opened the doors to the Louvre. Yeah. And I was like, this is all the artwork, and let everybody see it, because it takes, humbly I say this, but it takes just an hour to sit down, have them smoke the cigar, and then their eyes start to open up. They're like, okay, wait a second. Like, this is different. Now, there were some that there was pushback, because at first it was like, that's Davidoff, that's Padron, that's not you guys. You can't, we're not going to sell a $30 cigar. Good luck and all this. I'm like, okay, well, I understand, but the ones that started to understand it, and then it just started to grow. And I think, thankfully, being a small boutique company and not looking to just be everywhere, because this, we could have just blown it up after a while, because we've had either some larger chains or online catalogs that wanted to buy just all the inventory. We want it, but that's not where we wanted to be. We wanted to have that steady growth, have a stronger foundation, introduce it to everybody, and let people show it. And share it. And that was the beautiful introduction to Industrial Cigars, because David reached out, and this was before everything opened up, but he shared the project and what was going to be. Yeah. And I had visited a lot of shops, and I had been smoking cigars, so I had seen shops, and this felt and looked very special. So even before they opened up, we were already partnered up and like, okay, yeah, we'll send you cigars. And they were taking care of their thing. They had their license, and they were ready to sell. So yeah, it's been an incredible journey of. No,
the Frakes are amazing people. Yeah. We talk about it all the time. I mean, everybody knows my love for ICC, but I mean, so many people don't get what that looks and feels like until they just come experience. That's why I invite them all the time. Like, come up here, be my guest.
Yeah.
If you're in the town and you want to come experience it, because it's so different. I mean, how many cigar shops? I mean, you travel the world and you go to all the major. I mean, if it's a big cigar shop, you know about it. You've probably been invited there. You've probably been there.
I've been kicked out of a few too.
Yeah, I'm sure. yeah. But how many like shops would you say that like? I mean, if Nelson comes in over for like PCA and stuff like that, like he's maybe walking into what, 2, maybe 3 shops? Like, how many shops can you walk in and just like randomly come in before PCA or something that's going on and sit and smoke a cigar with Nelson Alfonso?
Right.
Or, you know, any of these major guys, you know, like whether it's, you know, like Luciano or Darren Chaffee or yourself coming in town. Like, I mean, you guys visit regularly. And I mean, if you follow you guys online, yeah, you make most stops. You're there once a year, keeping up ties and, you know, doing your thing. But for the most part, like, I mean, I see it. There's obviously your handful of core places that you're at more than once a year, but that ain't many.
Right.
So, I mean, I think that speaks to like the specialty of like an environment like what the Frakes have created with ICC, where like, I mean, again, not every day you can like walk in here, be grabbing an Atabey in the humidor, and then you walk back and see Nelson Alfonso and Oliver sitting back here, and man, they're just here gonna smoke a cigar with you and have a conversation.
Yeah, well, I think that's the culture that Industrial Cigars has created, right? That family culture where it just makes you, it almost, you know, look, we're working, right?
Yeah.
But if it just doesn't feel like work, and the industry in general, being the cigar business, the people I've spoken to, myself included, it doesn't feel like work, right?
Yeah.
There's a lot of behind the scenes, and people, you know, they say it with a you know a warm heart, but they're like, oh, I want your job, you know, you get to sit down and smoke cigars. There's a lot of stuff that goes behind it, right?
Yeah.
A lot of build up and you know, a lot of work behind it, and then, you know, when you're able to do an event or you're able to come and just relax and say, okay, my day's over, but I might, you know, I think I was here the other night. I showed up at like 7:30. I was like, all right, my day's over, but I just want to come here and relax. And so still smoking a cigar, but still sharing stories. And, you know, in a way, look, I'm still, they're asking questions about, you know, Atabey and Byron. So if you look at it, yeah, it's still kind of a sales thing. So you're still working, but there's so much passion and love behind it. It doesn't feel like it. I wish we had Nelson more often than not. I think he's probably been here more than any other shop, because this was the first Atabey Lounge. Yeah. So that meant a lot to him. Yeah. For a man whose family had been in tobacco since the 1800s. When the Byron line started, and they ended up losing in the early 1900s. And Nelson was an artist in Cuba. He wasn't in the cigar business, and at the age of 24, I believe, he met his grandfather for the first time, because his grandfather was kind of kicked out of the family from what he said, because his grandmother was more on the communist side, his grandfather wasn't, so they kind of kicked him out, and Nelson met him for the first time, and he learned about, you know, the family history and how they were in tobacco. So Nelson said that, you know, he was a photographer and a painter. He said that day he put his camera down, he jumped into the tobacco side. And he had started, you know, his company where he does design work, and he does a lot of the packaging for international brands, and he jumped into it. And then in the early 2000s is when he released the Byron and the Atabey lines. So you know, he's just been immersed in it ever since. And, you know, now it's been harder for him to come to the U.S. because he's now building a new aging rooms, really. I think there are about almost 30 different aging rooms that I'll have in Madrid, and that will go along with the warehouse and offices and a nice lounge. So if anybody out there, pretty soon you'll be able to go to Madrid, Spain, go to an Atabey lounge. He's not going to sell, there's nothing to sell, but you want to enjoy an Atabey, he'll share an Atabey or Byron with you. So
I'm so excited about that. Spain is one of my favorite countries to visit. I'm so excited for that. I absolutely love Spain. But like you said, like I mean, he leaves no detail. Like I wish I'd brought the box in here that these came in with me, but like I don't know how many you can see. It's like this is the bottom band. I mean, like that he created for these cigars. Like everything from the packaging, like you can see. Like I mean, his labels, everything. Like you guys see the boxes and stuff. And I wish I had bought one at the time, but like his limited humidor, like. Anybody that's seen that, like Atabey, I think they unveiled it at PCA last year. Yeah, it's just everything is a beautiful piece of artwork.
Yeah. That Atabey humidor was pretty unique, and I remember again he shows us renderings and it looks beautiful, but then when you see it for the first time, and him unveiling it at the PCA, opening up the drawers, and the first one was on display here, and I know Industrial had a few that were branded just for them as that was our way to kind of say thank you for everything, but yeah, that was a pretty unique humidor.
How do you think? My wife jokes and calls me a social chameleon because I moved every 3 years.
Right.
Growing up, when you're moving constantly, you got to learn how to blend and make new friends and all these things like life skills. How do you think that's affected you in your career choices and everything else, and how that's benefited you because you've moved all over?
Yeah.
Really travel. You're kind of you're a foodie. Right. He's a music guy. He's like fine food, fine cigars, fine wine, fine tequilas.
Right.
Like, how do you think that's like evolved your bases within the industry and personally?
Yeah. I think personally, it was a challenge at first, right? There's a lot of resentment, towards your parents. I still remember there was one time we had just, I spent 8 years in Milwaukee for first through 8th grade, and in the school I was going to, after 8th grade, you go to a whole new high school for your freshman year to senior, and I think there were 900 kids per class. Like it was a massive school, but you're looking forward to that and going with your friends and everything. And then after that year, we moved to New York City. So from Milwaukee, Wisconsin to New York City, and all the friends I had built, I had so much resentment. And I remember we were walking to a restaurant one night, and it was like 10 feet in front of my parents. I was just pissed, and I was like, what are we doing here? This is ridiculous. And the fact that we're walking to a restaurant, like, why do we have to walk? Why can't we take a cab? Is not necessarily, it sounds like a spoiled kid, but it was more of like just this, I guess, everything running through it. Yeah, animosity, and just, look, I'm what at that age, 14, 15-year-old kid, and
that's where you're making all your good friends.
Yeah, everything. I was like, what are we doing? So, but looking back on it, I was able, and through sports, that helped out a lot, because you're on a team, and if you're out there and practicing hard, and no matter what your level of athleticism is, if you're out there practicing, you're part of the team. Then they'll take you in. So I think that just kind of helped me adapt to different environments. I'm comfortable walking in a room, meeting new people, greeting people, starting up conversations. So I think it's helped me grow personally, but definitely at the time it wasn't easy at all. So that helps in business and personal.
We got a question. It's a cigar question.
Oh boy.
All right, so Chris wants to know, why do some of the Atabeys have foot bands and some do not?
So that's an excellent question, because I've had that conversation with Nelson. So the foot band was originally, it was kind of coming out as a way to help against counterfeit Atabeys that were going around. And then he was trying to say, okay, well, I'm going to use a foot band for certain sizes to kind of distinguish them, because they're only going to be available in tubes. And then it turned into, well, we're just going to kind of display the entire portfolio, which consists of 12 different Vitolas in the Atabey line. So it just kind of ended at that point. He never added foot bands to the other. So I wish I could have a better, reason. I'm sure he wishes there, a better reason for it. But it was just one for the counterfeiting, and two, it was going to be for a particular way to present the Atabeys, and then in the end it was just, okay, I'm going to have it for kind of the larger ring gauges, because you'll see it on Delirios, Ritos, Mysticos, Benditos. And actually, I take that back, because it is on the Spiritus too, which is the smallest ring gauge out of all of them. So it was just kind of the lines that kind of came out after the original three that were out there. Because when he first released Atabey in boxes, you had or in jars rather, there was the Divinos, Brujos, and then the Ritos was in a box of 30 that came with a special tube. So that Ritos had a secondary band, because there was a premium tube in there that, if you guys have seen it before, has the bullet cutter on the top and the humidification unit on the bottom.
I haven't seen this.
Oh no! Oh yeah. No? It's okay. All right. So we'll have to help you guys find that. So Nelson has the worldwide patent on this tube that was used for, I think, seven different lines.
Okay.
So he originally designed it for some lines coming out of Cuba, and they loved it. They used it, and they went to reuse it again. All right, let's do it again. Let's relaunch this in the tube. So the cigar. Yeah. Oh.
I hear it.
Oh, that's what I heard.
Okay, I thought I heard.
No, it's on my bag. Sorry, folks, technical difficulty. We got a major rainstorm here.
Yeah, it's like storming like crazy out here. I was about to tell Biz to put his headphones in to make sure you can still hear us all.
Yeah,
like
we need
pouring down.
We need a cup.
You won't hear that part, but go ahead.
No. With the cigar. So the tubes. So then there was let's do the second run, and then the order was kind of canceled. Like, no, we're not going to do it. So he kind of had these tubes kind of in the process, and he decided to use it. Okay, well, I'm going to use it for myself then. And these tubes, this patent that he has on the bottom, it has this machine threaded bottom that unscrews, and there's a little humidification unit on the bottom.
Okay.
Which you may have seen in other designs, but when it's done like that, the humidification just goes straight up. So usually the foot of the cigar captures all of that humidity, and sometimes you'll see that foot kind of blow out.
Right. You light it up.
Because all that humidity is going right there. What his design was, it was a closed bottom, but then holes on the side so that humidity runs up the side of the tube so that it humidifies the cigar, not just the foot. Yeah. And then he has a bullet cutter on the top that just unscrews. So I'll definitely have to show you. But he's got it's pretty cool. So there were 7 lines that used it, and then he used it he had a beautiful pack for Bandolero. There were 6 sizes of an extra aged Bandolero with a slightly different blend. Then the Atabey had a 5-pack for some of the lines that weren't available in boxes. They were only available in the tubes. And then for the Byron, he did the same thing where there were 2 from each century. So these were like gift sets. Yeah. And he did the tubes, and it was pretty special. So we'll have to show you those. Yeah, I definitely look forward to seeing that. Maybe explain to everybody too, for all the like not super cigar nerds on here, about United's history, because 1901, 1905. Yeah. I mean, what? 1901. 1901 is when that company was created. The first flying cigar lounge. Yeah. Pretty cool. The history goes way back there too. Like, I think that's important for people that didn't grow up in the New England states and haven't seen things like that, and companies that have been around 100+ years. Right. Maybe talk a little bit about what Garofalo did with, United and where it originated and stuff like that. Yeah, so 1901, United Cigars started, and it was like a tobacco convenience shop. They sold newspapers and, comic books, gum, and everything, and they sold cigars. And it was mainly on the East Coast, so you'll see a lot of, like, old New York pictures of buildings. You see United Cigars, and they branded everything. They had a catalog where you could use United points to buy razors, to buy household goods, to buy everything. They branded a flying cigar lounge. They had coins. They had I think over like 3,000 stores. They had over 3,000 stores at one point, and they ended up being so they were. distributors of consolidated tobacco as well when they had the 3,000 locations, and then because I think they were selling a lot of comic books or something, they were bought out by the same company that bought out Marvel Comics.
Okay.
And that was in the 60s, I believe. So then, David Garofalo ended up picking it back up after it was kind of gone, and the launched it in 2009 as a company, and so we kind of adopted the same style logo, but just brightened it up and made it slightly different. Kind of kept the same Americana, red, white, and blue and patriotic theme to it. But United Cigars, we turned that into a manufacturing and distribution company. So we have our own lines that we manufacture, but then we do distribute selected tobacco, which is the Atabey and Byron and Bandolero. And we distribute Jose Dominguez, Hightower, which are two lines that are made by the manufacturer that makes our United and Firecracker. So, and we distribute for Arnold Andre, it's also a 200-year-old company out of Germany. Mostly known for like machine mades, but throughout Europe. But in 2010, they ended up buying a factory in the Dominican and started to produce premium cigars, and released to the European market premium cigars in 2011. And a couple of years ago, they approached us to distribute their lines and introduce them to the U.S. And Industrial Cigars, they have the Terra Nova here, the Araparique, and the Dark Fired Kentucky.
Yep.
And we also distribute their Montosa line. So we do a little bit of both. But yeah, I think we mentioned it earlier, or we were talking, but yeah, we have over 25 different lines in the portfolio, so it's extensive.
Yeah, you guys have a lot of different stuff, and it's cool, and that's one of the things I love about ICC here is it's so curated. To get shelf space here, you better be on your A game. I mean, it's not just. For those of you that haven't maybe been to a cigar lounge, everyone you walk into is completely different for the most part. And it's a lot of the ones you walk into, it feels like your grandpa's bowling alley that he hung out at, and it's like you're smoking in this old cafeteria, this old bowling alley, but then there's these other cigar lounges across the world that are just absolutely amazing. Yeah. And then they have a really, you get into one that looks like an old library where they have every cigar known to man, and to make a decision would take you hours unless you knew what you're doing. And then you come someplace like ICC, it's a lot more refined, focused, not just anything can end up on the shelf here. I mean, when they come back, I dread when they come back. I don't think I'm going to sign up again this year because it's just too much. But when they come back from PCA, they come back with probably 200 cigars. They narrow it down to 100. And then we sit in committees and we smoke 100 cigars passing around and go, what wins? We're picking one out of 100.
Yeah, it's not. And
easy. I mean, I don't know how many people have done that, but if you sit and you're taking 2 puffs off a cigar, passing it to the person to your right, and you're just going around a table with 12, 15 people, man, by 30 cigars in, you're
spinning.
Whew, that's a lot.
Yeah.
What's that experience like for you guys now, especially since you're more refined? Like you said, you got 25 lines. What's that like for you now, and how has that changed over the years with your palate and everything else? Nelson calls and says, "Hey, come down here. I want to go through these blends with you." How has that experience changed, and how has that changed your cigar smoking experience?
Yeah, so I think that's a great question too, because I think we all kind of evolve, right? With everything that we consume, right? Either we eat, we drink, but if we're talking about cigars, your palate changes, and when you're first introduced to a cigar, you're talking about, you're on a beach, and it was the environment and the smell of the ocean, the breeze, the cigar, the cocktail that you were drinking, the company you had, whatever, everything. And then you come back, and now you're smoking a cigar in a different environment, and it was a different cigar, but the environment's different. So your experience with that cigar might change, but then your palate, as you start smoking more, just you're eating, if you eat spicy food, the more spicy food you eat, or different spices, right? Your palate starts to change a little bit, and you're able to pick out more nuances of the tobaccos. So my experience changed when we started getting more into and this was back in Vegas as well, where we started to get more on the manufacturing side of it. And when you start deconstructing a cigar, just like some fancy restaurants, right? Deconstructed, whatever. You're tasting the components of that dish. Well, it's the same thing with a cigar. If you're able to sample the different tobaccos, and now the artistry is really taking those tobaccos, what would they taste like together? This one's a little salty, this one's a little sweet, this one's a little earthy. Well, let's blend those together. Now let's change that percentage of, so for like, a United, I started using, I came across Dominican broadleaf. And that was the first time I had smoked Dominican broadleaf, but I wanted to pair that with this tobacco from Quisqueya and Dominican Seco and kind of blend all that together, and then you kind of change the percentages. So it changes the way you approach a cigar by being able to try the different components. And I say that because if you're smoking a cigar and you're sitting down, you may not be able to smoke the individual tobaccos, right? Because you're in a shop, you have the finished product. But if you start smoking a cigar with, Ara Perique, like if we take Terra Nova, and then you smoke the Terra Nova with more dark-fired Kentucky, those two you can definitely start tasting the differences. But you might be able to grab one cigar that might have some Nicaraguan, and that might not be your palate, but what region in Nicaragua? So if you're able to kind of delve deeper into the brand, the line, and what they're using, now you'll start to see, well, I like this region of Nicaragua better. I like the spice out of this tobacco more. So for me, that experience of being able to kind of break down the cigars and taste the raw tobaccos has
what do you think helped you learn to do that? I mean, because I still feel like a lot of times, sitting down with you or, any of the other guys that are, I would call aficionados, that really know the game and know all about cigars. What do you think what's a good way to go about it or to learn how to break these things down? I mean, I feel like everybody starts off with like, what wrapper do I like? Like, do I like the dark one? Do I like the light Connecticut? And then it's kind of like, what size cigar do I like? And then it's, but then there's so many other components between the binders, the fillers, the blends, all that. Like, what really helps you, or what's the best way to go about like learning that if you were just, your everyday cigar smoker, to really like kind of to figure out what it is when you like a cigar, to like really figure that out, like what is it that I really like about this? Is it the combination of all the things, or do I really lean towards like a Maduro wrapper or a Nicaraguan, or whatever the case may be? What, out of all the different experiences you've had, what would you think is the best way to go about expanding your knowledge and being able to differentiate those things from a knowledge standpoint and your palate?
There are so many brands and lines. It will be a challenge. But so when I was on more the retail side and even the manufacturing side, in Vegas, we would have new customers come in, and you can kind of steer them in the right direction, right? If how do they take their coffee, or what spirits do they drink, right? And what type of whiskey, because your spice is going to be different than my spice. For some people, black pepper is just like, well, that's really spicy. All right, no, it's not, but for some it is. So you can direct them, but the beauty of the industry is that, I would tell people when they would come in to our local shop, I said, look, start from the left, go to the right, and we can figure out what really works for you. Because a new cigar smoker, they may have been a cigarette smoker, they may have smoked pipes, or they may have zero smoking experience, but their palate is developed. Because they might be a whiskey drinker. When you first tried your first whiskey, it might have been like, whoa, this is like gasoline. But over time, you're like, certain gasolines are actually pretty good. Like, I'm sipping this, it's just a drop on the tongue, and you're like, it just, whole mouth opens up. But I guess for new cigar smokers, one thing to be cautious of, and we touched on it earlier, is what you're eating, drinking or what you may have experienced before you're about to light up. Because if your taste buds are overly sensitive and they're opened up, then the cigar experience, now they're overly sensitive. So now you're introducing this, this heat and this smoke, and it's like, wait a second, that's too much.
Yeah.
So I guess, more to answer the question, for someone to kind of experience and dive into how can I figure out what components of a cigar I like? Do I like darker, lighter? It really comes with experience. It's the feel of the cigar. They're very, it's very personal. It's a personal experience between the cut, the light. I don't see it as often now, where you walk into a cigar shop and you're almost looking at the different wrappers, or you're feeling the cigar because you just want to see if the the wrapper connects. But this is a darker wrapper, but it's not overpowering.
Oh,
it's
no.
not. It's not spicy.
Yeah.
It's not. But you're able. The wrapper complements the the filler, and
Looks
the
can
blend.
be deceiving.
Looks can be deceiving. Absolutely. So but even on the opposite side of the spectrum, just because you are an experienced cigar smoker, don't shy away from something with a lighter wrapper. Because look at like an Atabey Spiritus, that Lancero, or even the Hechizo, smaller one. Those two in particular, they will be slightly stronger, a little more spice than something with a larger
Just to show
ring
the
gauge.
difference, since you guys can see this hopefully on here. Like, Black Ritos, and then look at this one. Like the color differentiation, but like you wouldn't kick either of these out of bed.
No,
at all.
And Atabey, and they say, like Atabey, because it's so clean, and they say you shouldn't inhale, but you can see even with Atabey, if you do inhale it, like it's a medium plus bodied cigar, but on the palate when you're drawing it in, it's very very light on the palate, but you start to as you kind of let the smoke linger, or if you retrohale it, because you have more sensory in the nose than on the palate. Like when you're sick, if your nose is stuffed up, you're eating soup or you're eating whatever, you're like, I can't even taste this.
Yeah.
So if don't be scared to learn how to retrohale with the right cigar. Right, you don't want to go right into fuller bodied, spicier, tons of Ligero, or just a stronger cigar. You don't want to start retrohaling those.
No.
But an Atabey, I can almost retrohale the entire thing.
Yeah.
Now you don't want to overstimulate the senses, but I think for a new cigar smoker, it's the experience, and then really taking notes. When I kind of first started getting into the business, and there was this cigar dossier where you would put the band on there, and then you write down the components, and you write down the experience, and it even asked for what meal did you have, what did you drink with it, what time, what day. So you could have this whole journal of your cigar experience, and then you can kind of go back and reference it. I look cool. Back, I have it. I still have mine. I pulled it out about a month ago, and it was, dates back to like 96, 97. I'm like, wow, this is pretty cool. And I'm like, wow, I like that cigar. And then it brings you back to like, wow, this was a really good line. Like I had a lot of Bahia. I don't know if you know that. Yeah, so Bahia. Bahia, I don't even know, late 90s, early 2000 was just a phenomenal brand out of Costa Rica by Tony Borhani, and Don Douglas was the master blender.
Okay.
And it was this line that was phenomenal. They had different lines. They had a Trinidad line, a Maduro, then the Bahia Gold came out, which was this spice bomb, and then they came out with the Bahia Gold Maduro, which was phenomenal. So, but anyway, I say that because I look back, and they're not around anymore. But you look back on it, and you can see what your experience was with the cigar then. So you can see how your palate changes over time and what you like. But it's really dissecting the cigar as you're smoking it. Try to find out more information so that you can learn what you like and don't like. And just because you don't like one blend in particular, kind of revisit another cigar or another cigar from that manufacturer to see if it was that blend or if it was a particular tobacco in there.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's really about, like anything, experience.
What do you? I'm curious what your opinions would be on this. So I read an interesting article recently, and we had a big debate about this weekend with some of my cigar smoking friends when we were hanging out. Did you happen to see or read the article in Cigar Aficionado where it was like, this was within the last like 3 or 4 months, where it was like, I want to say like 10 things you should do or shouldn't do smoking a cigar, like common misnomers and common practices, things to do or not do. Like, I'll give you a couple examples. Like, they're like, have you seen the guy in the lounge doing this? Like, like that's not what the cigar was designed to do. It's like one good steady draw because you're not overheating the top of the cigar and how it was designed to draw and everything else. Another one I remember off of there was like, don't pre-cut your cigars and throw them back in your acrylic or your humidor.
Right.
Like that's a no-no. It's different things like that. Are there little things like that you focus on or would say do, don't do that like are common? Maybe something that should be common sense that maybe isn't common sense?
Yeah.
No pun intended?
Yeah, I think so. Overall, I think the short answer is do what makes you comfortable and makes you happy. There are, they're definitely not wrong with the smoking speed and style because cigars are meant to take away the stress and help you relax. So you shouldn't be smoking it fast. You shouldn't be rushing through it. And that's what I was alluding to earlier when I say you walk into the humidor. That's part of the experience, walking through and looking at the different cigars, looking at the different shades and looking how it's constructed. That's part of the overall experience. And then you sit down and the cut, take a cool draw on the cigar. And I find myself, there are some cigars I fall in love with on the cool draw. And 5 minutes later, I'm still like...
Explain cool draw, because I don't think everybody knows what cool draw is.
So when you cut the cigar, and however you choose to cut it, straight cut, bullet cut, V cut, that crown cut, a cool draw will be, once you cut the cigar, almost act as if you're puffing on it, and you just take in these...
And it's not lit.
Drags, and it's not lit.
It's not lit before you light it.
Before you light it, before you introduce the flame to it, anything. Take that cool draw and draw on the cigar to kind of pick out some different notes. And there are some in particular when like Atabey Black, I think I cut this and I was drawing on it for a little bit because you pick out like these I was picking out sweet notes and these rich berry notes and which is very, very different, and it's calming. And then when you're ready to light it, there's no rush to it. I typically carry around a soft flame because I like just to take my time with it. But if you use a torch properly, think of look, we're in Texas, think of barbecue.
Low and slow.
Like if you have a grill and you have the flames on high and it's been sitting out there and you forgot about it and it's, the grill is just piping hot, and then you throw the steak on there or the burger on there and the flames are catching the grease and they're just charring. You can see that and you can taste that difference in whatever you're cooking. But if you heat it up and it's properly a cast iron skillet, right? You heat that up properly, and then you place whatever it is, whatever protein or whatever it is that you're cooking in there. It's going to be a different experience, and you're cooking it properly to introduce the heat properly. So it's like a cigar. Just introduce the heat. So if you have, like right now, I do have a triple flame, but I make sure that flame isn't even touching the cigar, because there's enough heat on there that it will start to just warm up the end of the foot of the cigar. And that's what you want to do. You want to warm it up first, make sure you're catching all the edges, and then you can kind of introduce it a little bit more so it starts to glow. Then after that, you can take a couple puffs without having the lighter to the cigar, and then you go back and reintroduce it, and then it should just be 1 or 2 puffs, and then that's what's going to light the cigar because the heat is already there. So I think that was answering your original question. So then, because I've sat down with people that this one, I know this one retailer, a great guy, great relationship, but he was smoking the Atabey for the first time, and he was just puffing on it, hotboxing it. Like, I'm like, oh, this guy's gonna hate it. Like, you can't like a cigar. He finished it. It was a Brujos. Finished it in about half an hour.
Damn.
And I was like, was like, man, I don't think I've ever seen anybody smoke that. He's like, that was one of the best cigars I've ever had. I go, I thought you were going to hate it the way you smoked that. Yeah. But for him, that was his experience. And for him, that, I can't really change it because if his palate is just like that, like I would like to change the way he smokes and his smoking style, but that just might be how his palate is. Some people have a very sensitive palate, and they're able to pick out different nuances of a cigar and different characteristics of a cigar. Some others aren't, and it becomes frustrating. And they're like, I can't pick that. Look, in the end, let's not overcomplicate it. I think there's
do you like it?
etiquette,
Do you not like it?
Which
I mean, at a certain point, it's like, do you like it?
Right.
You don't have to be able to be that guy that's like,
exactly.
Oh, this is a Maduro wrapper with an Ecuadorian binder and this filler and that. You don't have to do that. I think earlier we were just trying to decipher if you want to do that, how do you do that? But like at the end of the day, do you like it or do you not like it? But here's things that will help you along the way to determine.
Yeah, if you want to, get deeper.
Yeah,
like there's some people that go to the gun range. They just want to. I have a gun. It shoots a bullet, and they don't know what it is, but they just know that experience. They want training. They want better experience. They want to be comfortable. They just go to the range and do their thing. Then others, they dive way deep into it.
Yeah,
right. And same with
like
whiskeys.
Oliver, who like goes shooting and like trains with Navy SEALs to like go shoot.
That was pretty cool
stuff. Yeah.
That's my boy Sal.
If you can't tell already, like I want to be Oliver when I grow up. I mean, I know he joked about that earlier, but I mean, like you do have, in my eyes, one of the coolest jobs in the world. Like you get to travel around, you get to do all these cool blends, you get to represent these amazing cigar guys.
Eat some tacos.
You get to tacos, the wine, like I mean, you kind of got it made, man. You're like the Anthony Bourdain of like cigars.
God rest his soul.
Yeah.
I don't want to end like Anthony.
Well, let's not do that.
No, let's not do that.
Let's not do that.
But man, he was great. I loved just watching his show, and that was one that, man, he had some demons, right?
Yeah.
Because
you know what funny one about that?
No.
So I bought after he passed. I was a huge Anthony Bourdain fan. I bought this shirt that was like a tribute to his foundation or whatever that they set up, and it's a black and white T-shirt. So like, it was like a white silhouette of his face. Mm. And I'm not shitting you. 6 out of 10 times I'd wear it in public, people would ask me if it was Albert Einstein.
No.
And I'm like,
really?
How do you get Albert Einstein with like one of the most iconic hairdos and Anthony Bourdain mixed up? Like,
I can't.
It's like the weirdest thing in the world.
I'd have to see the silhouette, but I can't see how the two would be close.
I mean,
to
it's not. It's not.
No,
because he has like the combed back kind of like fro, like just slicked
completely
back,
different.
like. And Albert Einstein has this crazy like strewn out like afro. Like,
that's crazy. He was when watching his shows, like he was just such a, I don't know, he just had such a personality. He was great for that show, and he was just no frills, and he was just out there being him, and then when that news comes, it's like how could that even happen? Like with him, like you look at him and it's like, it's the greatest job. He's out there eating, he's meeting new people, he's traveling all over the place. But kind of going back to cigars in a happier moment. But I think look, cigars, it is all about the experience. Yeah. You were talking about that you were having hard times. We all go through hard times, and then you can light up a cigar, and it will kind of take the stress and take life's
part of the show work here.
Thank you so much. Awesome. You're the best. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, absolutely.
Stu.
Thanks, sir.
Thank you. Cheers.
Cheers.
That is. See, that's smooth. Tequila, people are so, like, I say I love tequila. I haven't like dove into it like crazy, but I know I enjoy it and I know what I like. But then there are some that will just dive deeper. But people are scared of it when you say tequila because they've all had bad experiences. Because
people shot it when they were in college and high school and thought that the only way to drink something was to shoot it.
Oh yeah.
I mean, you can't pay me to do shots anymore. Like, I mean, very rarely will you catch me to do a shot.
Imagine doing a lime and salt with this. Like,
no,
you'd ruin it.
It absolutely ruin it.
So it's a miseducation.
But it's the same thing with me, though. Like, I don't know about you personally, but I'm a big bourbon connoisseur. I have an amazing collection of bourbon.
Yeah.
In the last year and a half, I've bought more tequila than bourbon. Same thing as we were talking about with cigars, and same thing as when you were a kid.
Yeah.
What your palate said was good and what you liked and didn't like changes. It evolves. Like you didn't wake up and tell your mom when you were in elementary school that you wanted a cup of coffee. No. You thought coffee was disgusting.
Right.
My little brother hated onions, didn't like onions. He called them onions.
Right.
Didn't like strawberries. Right. And then Varsity Blues came out and he saw whipped cream on hot girls with strawberries. Now all of a sudden he likes strawberries. You know what I mean? Like,
how could you not?
Your palate changes as you grow.
Right.
Like same thing, like, even on the bourbon journey, I went from just like your common everyday bourbons to higher proofs to now all of a sudden I'm trying to rise to then you're doing cognacs and armagnacs and stuff like that just gradually, as you continue to drink things or eat different foods or be exposed to different things, your palate's going to change and evolve over time. Yeah. Same thing with cigars. I didn't start out smoking dark wrappered cigars like at all. Like everything was a Connecticut.
Right.
You just... and
because you think that's safe.
You feel that within that safety, you can learn and enjoy.
Right. Or that's where you were directed. And
that's exactly. Right. And some people maybe started off with that.
Right.
I mean, I don't know.
Oh, yeah. Oh, you're just starting out smoking. You should smoke this. And they lead you right to a Connecticut. Or like we have the La Gianna Angelic here. That's a sweet tip. Light wrapper. So it's like, oh, you're a first time smoker. Here, smoke this.
Yeah.
Well, it's a sweet tip and it's a lighter cigar. Maybe that's not what they would like.
Yeah,
but
maybe if you don't like sugar or you don't like that taste,
it's just
that can ruin it for you too.
It's just not for you, and that can ruin the experience. And I think, a lot of times, from people that I've spoken to about, when their first cigar experience, it was sometimes like a bad experience because if you share, and I'm guilty of this too. Somebody comes over or, we're sharing a cigar or somebody says, oh, do you have an extra cigar? I love cigars. I smoke them all the time. You give them something that you wouldn't necessarily want to smoke because you're like, no, you're a first time smoker. I don't want to share something good with you. Now I've kind of matured and I'm like, oh, okay, first time. Yeah, let me give you something good. But I remember, on a budget as a college kid, if I have cigar and my cigars were in a cigar box, in a Ziploc bag with a sponge in the corner and just a quarter open. That was my humidor. Yeah. But I would keep a couple cigars in there, and that's how I just kept them humidified, right?
Yeah.
So if somebody asked for a cigar, I would be like, okay, yeah, here you go. And and you fall into the trap too. Like one friend was like, oh yeah, I love cigars, and I give him one, and he just takes it and he bites like not even gingerly or just rips off the end, and then he didn't even smoke half of it. And he was like, that was phenomenal. And, like stubs it out. And I'm like, oh, I want to kick you in the teeth.
Mashes it out in the ashtray.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the same thing with like my bourbon collection at home when people come over. And I think cigars are the same way. Like you have to evaluate where they're at. Mm-hmm. And really have an understanding. Like, is this your first time? Is this you smoke a cigar once a year on vacation?
Right.
Same thing with bourbon. Do you drink it neat? Do you drink it with a cube of ice? Do you want a bunch of crushed ice? Do you want a mixer? Do you want, 7 or whatever in it? I mean, I've now set my bar up a certain way where like, all right, I mean, I fully support and believe you should drink it how you want to drink it.
Right.
Same thing with cigar. Smoke your cigar how you want to smoke it. Like I'm not telling you that a V cut is better than a straight cut or any of that nonsense. Like do what you're comfortable with and what you enjoy.
Right.
But it's the same thing when you come to my bar. I'll be like, all right, what do you like? What's your norm? All right, you like to mix. Cool. Anything over here on this bar top, you can grab any bottle over here, and I don't give a shit what you mix with it.
Right.
You want to pour milk in it, tea, I mean, I don't care. You can mix whatever you want. Now you come over here on my bar wall, and you want to grab one of these bottles, certain ones you definitely aren't mixing.
Right.
And the first thing I'm going to ask is, you at least need to try a sip neat. I mean, we'll pour you a small enough sip that at least try it. Like, know what you're tasting.
Right.
Like, then we can move on. And I feel like that's the same way with cigars. Like, you want to know their level of education on cigars and what they smoke. Like, have you smoked? How much do you smoke? You know, because there's no point in giving somebody a Black Ritos that's their first cigar. Like, yeah, you're giving them an amazing cigar, right, but are they even going to really appreciate it?
Right.
Like, you know, a $50 cigar, I mean, that's really cool of you to do that, but like at the same time, are they ready for that?
Right.
Is that where they're...
Yeah, they may not be. I've had, some conversations where about Atabey, if, we're talking about the Black Ritos, but just a regular line of Atabey, where they'll say, oh, no, it's really mild, it's not for me. And I'm like, all right, maybe it was the experience or the environment or you were just smoking it differently, because to me, Atabey is a medium-bodied cigar. Like when you talk about body and strength is a little bit, less than medium.
Yeah.
But body is a medium plus.
Yeah.
Right? Strength, when you look at cigars, strength and body compared to a wine.
Yeah.
Right? Strength for wine, all about the same, right? That 12, 14%. That would be the strength. So that nicotine in a cigar and how it makes your body feel. I've smoked some really strong cigars, or I've smoked some tobaccos, just the raw tobaccos. And you can almost feel it like coursing through your veins. Like all of a sudden it just hits you and you feel like, I feel my arms tingling. I feel everything. So that's not Atabey. And so that's strength, right? But body is more of, okay, are you drinking a Pinot Noir, or are you drinking a Merlot, or are you drinking a Cabernet? Like those are the different bodies of a cigar.
Yeah.
And Atabey to me is more of that, more of that Cabernet Merlot plus, where you're going to have, something almost chewy, like you're going to have something that's got some depth to it.
Yeah.
And everyone's got a different experience.
But there's also like that friend that like wants to find the biggest guy in the bar and like go talk shit to him.
Right.
It's like there's that guy that wants that cigar that's just going to kick his ass. Like he isn't really enjoying it.
Right.
He just like, oh yeah, I smoked this,
Right.
like it's just something that's just like super full bodied, really peppery, and like he may not even really be enjoying it, but he just wants that like nicotine kick, and it's going to really just kick him.
Right. Yeah, and there's some people like that. There are a lot of brands out there that do.
Cool, we got that.
That's what they've built their entire existence on. Like companies do well with that because there is a market for it. But I think even those people start to change. And
After
they start
a while,
to look,
for sure, you have to.
Yeah, they start to look for something with more subtlety, but just more character to it. And
what do you think? How do you differentiate between men and women too? Because it's like women are starting to really get
boys
more
have a
involved
penis,
in
girls
this.
have a vagina.
Pronouns. We'll play the pronoun game. I mean, no, but I mean like experiencing and like educating and like teaching women and like introducing them to cigars. Like, how has that evolved for you? Because like women are starting to be more open and checking it out and being more involved with cigars.
There's a stronger female market now.
Yeah.
There was always a female market, but they were, they were apprehensive just in conversation. They would say, oh yeah, I'd walk into a lounge and everyone's staring at me. Well, I go back to them and I say, well, you have to understand, like as a male, even when you're walking into a lounge, you feel like everyone's staring at you because it's like, oh, who's this new person coming in? Because you're disrupting, not in a bad way, but you're disrupting the experience because now there's a new noise coming in, or there's a breeze from the door. And it's also, well, who's coming in? And, oh, I don't recognize them, or, welcome, or you might recognize them.
Yeah.
So it's just because they were or are uncomfortable walking into that environment because now all eyes are on them and they know they're different. Right, they're walking into a room filled with guys, and they're a female, so it's different. But not always, but definitely within the last 10 years plus. I don't even know, but I don't want to say accepting females into it, but females have become more interested in cigars. They found that it's not off-putting to smoke a cigar. So they've come to lounges more, and there are more female events. There are business owners that are women. There are influencers that are women, and there are more women that are more educated because they want to learn more about it. Whereas sometimes a guy will get into it and they don't want to learn more about it. They just want to go out there. I'm just smoking a cigar. So I mean, I love it. I think the embarrassing part is when a woman will walk in and a shop owner will automatically say, "Oh yeah, you looking for a flavored cigar?" Or they'll say, "Oh, you shopping for your husband today?" It's like, no, I'm coming here because I want to smoke a cigar. Yeah. So I think we just need to nip that in the butt right away. Yeah. And whoever walks through the door, it's a new smoker. How can I introduce you to cigars? And that's happened on several occasions where it'll be a date night, or a husband or a man will bring their female friend in or their wife in, and she may not smoke cigars, but over time, or if they're spoken to or approached to properly, they end up being a cigar smoker. Yeah. And to share that experience with someone, with your partner, is phenomenal.
Yeah, absolutely. What do you think is what's maybe a cool moment or an experience you've had since working with Nelson where it was like one of those like aha moments, or maybe you just learned something completely new? Like what's like a moment that really stands out in like your cigar journey of like being as involved as you are with someone like Nelson?
Yeah. So I talked about it earlier just a little bit. That's one experience where I sat down and tried my first Atabey. Yeah. It wasn't with Nelson directly, but indirectly. Yeah. Smoking his cigar and what he had done to, what I believe changed my perception of cigars completely.
Elevating the game.
Completely. And that was 2016. So I had already been a cigar smoker. I don't even know at that point.
20 years.
So it was, 20 plus years. And I thought I knew, I'd had the luxury of having a family from France. So I had access to, the Cuban side. We would travel to France. I would buy cigars there. My father had cigars in his humidor. I would take them from there. He, being in the hotel business, he was mentored by a man named Henry Sheeline, who was in charge of the Ritz-Carlton in Boston, but also wrote like this booklet with Richard DiMiolo, who was part of originally Lane Limited, which became Consolidated Tobacco, which then became Altadis. So you're dating it way back, but he was this Austrian, loud, massive guy, and I remember going to their lake home, and big barrel belly, and just this guy on his boat smoking a cigar, and he was always just this image of him, which was fantastic. But so anyway, I thought I knew cigars, but then I smoked it for the first time, and that changed the game. But I think with Nelson, and it was actually one time with Pops, with Dave Frakes. We were in Cuba for the festival, and we were at Nelson's home in Cuba, which was the home of one of the guys. I forget one of the guys that. But anyway, they're like bulletproof glass and all this stuff. But he's like, yeah, this was his mistresses, not Nelson's mistresses, but this guy's mistress's house. Yeah, right, that they invited. So anyway, we're in the living room, and Nelson is he's so humble, and he's quiet and reserved. But if you get him into a conversation about cigars and tobacco, and he gets so animated, and all of a sudden he just stood up and he's talking about cigars, and he's just all these, his mannerisms, everything just kind of changed. And that I wanted to capture in a picture.
Quiet to passionate.
Yeah. And it was just like, this is Nelson. This is what I love. And he's just such a wealth of knowledge, and like the little things that you wouldn't know about in the cigar industry, like he's picking out. But I remember I took a picture, and he stopped. He's like, "You're not recording this, right?" I was like, No, I'm taking a picture, because it was very, there was sensitive material in there, not only about his line, but about the history of both all sides. So that moment was pretty special, and that trip with Dave was pretty great out to out to Cuba.
I can only imagine, man. Like that's, that's on my cigar journey goal list now. Like I've done in the bourbon journey, I've gone and hung out with many great distillers, toured the facilities and done that, but I haven't done this with cigars yet.
Yeah.
That's next on my list to do a trip like that, whether it's, something like that with you guys and Nelson or Luciano or something, just like I feel like that's the next like evolution of being able to be there and see all that, because when I was a kid growing up in Connecticut, one of the first farms I worked on, man, like we picked a little bit of tobacco. We picked
that's so cool.
Like all kinds of just crazy stuff and like the irrigation and all that stuff. Like, and I was just around it, but like, I mean, like that just wasn't my thing, man. I was baseball or bust back then, like if it didn't involve baseball, I gave 3 shits about it until girls came along, in high school.
That's a whole nother level.
It's just not what you think about, but like to know and have been around that stuff, and now like to be a person that really enjoys cigars, like I feel like that's one of those next things. Like that's a trip I've got to plan and do, and I just want to do it right. Like I'm sure that like just changes the whole perspective to really go and sit down and see how they do the blends and see how somebody like a Nelson Alfonso's mind works when he's sitting there doing that. Like I heard a story, maybe you can verify this or not. Like someone was saying like he put out the Black Ritos and hadn't even smoked one.
Right.
Like he's like got all this faith in it and like has created this masterpiece. And is at the point where he's handing them out to people like you and Dave Frakes and stuff like that, and is legit asking, how is it? Like, what do you think of this? Because the man himself hasn't even smoked his own masterpiece yet. Right. He's like the guy that just paints his painting, but like hasn't seen his painting.
Right.
It's so weird.
Yeah, because he's so if you equate it or relate it to a painter, it's like watching an artist paint. You're watching Bob Ross, right?
Yeah,
I love watching the old shows. But you're watching
Happy Little Trees.
Yeah, you're like, where's he going with this? Like, what is he doing? Like, take this palette knife and do this, and brush number 7 and do this, and you're like, what is he making? And all of a sudden, like he sees it, he knows what he's doing, and then all of a sudden it just comes together. And because I'm not a painter and I'm not like artistic like that, I don't see it.
Yeah.
So Nelson's like that, where he'll put the blend together, and with his experience over time, he's almost able to understand what it will be like after all those years of aging. And he kind of knows, but then he just wants the confirmation. Like, so he'll have us smoke something. Like I had the pleasure of smoking with him in last year at PCA, the Alfonso Grand Selection. And we had just eaten dinner. I'd never smoked one. But he sat down and we had dinner, and then after dinner it was already, now we were setting up the booth and doing everything, and now it's like 11:30, 12, and the show's going to start the next day. I don't know, exhausted, and I'm like, all right, well, yeah, we should go. He's like, no, I want you to come with me. We're going to have a cigar. I was like, all right. So we sit down, we say goodbye to his friend. Like he almost, his long-time friend from Cuba that he had grown up with.
Yeah.
He's like, oh, you should go to bed. You're tired. I'm going to go have a cigar. So it was kind of funny. And we sat down, and now he lights up. He gives me one of the Grand Selection. We light it up. He's like, I want you to smoke this. I go, all right, yeah, maybe I'll smoke it tomorrow. He goes, no. I want you to smoke it now. I go, but I'm already smoking one. He goes, I want you to smoke it now. I'm like, I'm smoking 2 Grand Selections side by side. Like, this is wrong. Like, I shouldn't be doing this.
Double fisting.
So like double fisting Grand Selection.
Yeah.
But he wants to see the reaction and the experience smoking them side by side, and they were different but the same. And that was not his very first time smoking it, but he had smoked it, but he wanted that confirmation because no one else had smoked it. So he can see ahead of what it's going to be like, because that process, again, of that aging is unique to the industry.
Yeah. So do you think, and this is, I don't know the right way to word this, like, do you, because he doesn't cut himself short, like I hate to say that, but like, do you think he almost like cut himself short, or like why someone like Nelson would make the decision like to release like the Grand Selección and the Black Ritos like relatively close to each other? Like, I mean, like I know the Black Ritos was like super limited and one off, but like,
right.
It's like, I mean, and maybe this wasn't the experience everywhere, so I try to be cognizant of that too. Like, you know, here at ICC, we're very fortunate because of the relationships, and we get stuff that everybody else doesn't necessarily get. But, you know, one week I'm smoking the Grand Selección, and I just got this, and I'm like, this is such an amazing cigar. It's brand new. Right. I'm just trying to wrap my brain around that. And then 3 weeks later, here comes the Black Ritos. I'm like, why would you do that? Like,
right.
Like you could have had Cigar of the Year 2 times over, right. But you just like, no, this is my creation. Here it is. Like I put it out. Like, where knowing Nelson and stuff like that, like, where do you think those decisions fall in line of something like that? Like, because he could have easily played that off,
right,
6 months or a year, and just dropped the Grand Selección and been like, sorry, they're not quite ready yet. And then the Black Ritos comes out 6-8 months later, and it's not like a wham, bam, thank you, ma'am. Right. You know, like, here you go.
Right.
I just dropped 2 iconic bombs on you guys, like, back to back.
Right.
Like,
I think, so you said something in there that I think kind of sums up, you know, who he is and why he's doing it. You said he could have played it off. Mm-hmm. And that's not what he's about. Like, he doesn't want to just play it off. Like, he's not looking for the recognition. If he was, then he wouldn't necessarily, you know, because I kid with him too. I say, you're a brilliant man, amazing blender. I said, but you're a terrible businessman. And I only say that, I say it lovingly, but I say, because if you ever sold your company, or somebody says, hey, I want to give you whatever, and you ended up selling it, whatever company were to, you know, purchase selected tobacco would strip at least 50% of what you do, because from a business standpoint, it doesn't make sense. Like, I roll cigars, I want to get them to the market, I want to sell them. For him, if it's not ready, it's not ready.
Yeah.
If it's not right, it's not right. I'm not going to introduce it.
You ain't going to put it out there.
No, he's had some that he's just like, no, it's not ready. I don't want to do it. So for them to be introduced at the same time, it's only because he had started something, and then maybe the next morning he's like, I wonder what Atabey would taste like with a dark wrapper. Let's do the dark wrapper. So he puts the dark wrapper on Atabey, but he already has the Grand Selection aging and going, and then it's a 5-year process. After 5 years, they're ready, and it's not a cut and dry date either, because
it's not like a set formula. Like, when it hits this point, it's going to market.
Right. If it's ready, it's ready. But if it's not, like, that's why some releases that we have, the Byron Humidors, the Grand Poema in the 19th century, the Habanero in the 20th, and the Elegante in the 21st, they never come out at the same time, because we've had some where we've almost missed a year because they're just not ready. So they have to go through that process. It has to be right. Yeah. He has to accept it, and then it will go out. So, you know, if he doesn't feel like it's time, then it's not time. And because he is, you know, more of an artist but very humble, he doesn't want to. I mean, you can see he doesn't want to be in the spotlight. He's not trying to be the rock star. He's not trying to, you know, he's
not attaching a celebrity name to his cigars or anything like that.
No. Even
though he's a celebrity in his own, like, I don't feel like he even knows it.
No,
almost.
He doesn't. He doesn't
never get that impression from him.
No, and he had his family, his wife. He met his wife Joanna, who came here, and his kids. They were almost the ones that were pushing him away from it, you know, because he had a history with his lines that he was pushing out, and it wasn't catching, right? You know, when it was released, it was first released in California. There was a distributor there. Then that distributor sent it to a distributor in Texas area. So it was out here a little bit, but they were pricing it way high, and it just wasn't catching. So his family was like, just get out of this. Like, just concentrate on what you're doing, because you have a good living. You do, you know, he produces more ashtrays than I think anyone in the world. Because
if you haven't seen one of his ashtrays, holy shit. Like, If I could smoke inside my house, I would buy one, but there's no way I'm setting one of his ashtrays on my back patio.
Yeah.
And I mean, I have an amazing back patio that's covered, protected, and everything, but there's no way I would.
Talking about like the ones that's in the front, the Byron ones.
Those porcelain Byrons, they're amazing. They're beautiful pieces of artwork.
That's supposed to be the flower on top of the tobacco plant.
Yeah.
Right. It's this tulip shape, and
it's like a 3-pronged like.
No, so you look at them and it's like, no, I don't want to ash in it. It's gorgeous.
Yeah.
And there's more, and he uses porcelain. So I don't know, if people understand porcelain, like these, he had more damages than he had viable ashtrays that he could send out. Yeah, well, he didn't even sell them. These were we want them to be out there, but because this drip, like there has to be something here for it to lay properly. And porcelain in general, there are different grades. So he'll produce ashtrays for some of the, some of the international brands that are out there. But with porcelain, you have, like I said, different grades. So you have A grade. I think there's like A, B, then B, right? And if it doesn't meet that A grade, then those have to be destroyed. So you might make 1,000 porcelain ashtrays, but the value is in that A grade. So the rest.
So you get 200
so
out
you
of
get 200,
1,000.
800 have to be destroyed. So that's what porcelain is. So he makes his ashtrays. The jars were out of porcelain. This is.
This is nice.
Got it. So this is the Byron, Byron ashtray. I don't know if we can see that. And, it's a beautiful piece that you don't.
It's a beautiful piece of artwork,
right? And that's for what Nelson said. He just kind of took the design of the flower on top of the tobacco plant, and that's what he wanted it to kind of look like. So it's a beautiful piece that you want to embrace, you want to show, you want to showcase and share with friends, but you don't don't want it to be ruined, right? It's an ashtray. Oh, really? No, don't ash in it. Though. So but he's very humble.
Don't ash in my Mona Lisa,
right? But he's very humble. Very approachable. He doesn't want to be just put out there as that guy. He's not yes, obviously look, the ratings help the brands, but he wasn't searching for the ratings, right? Some in all industries, right? Some will put a product to market and they're looking for the ratings because that will help their brand. They're pushing for it. That's what they're craving. That's what they want. But that's not Nelson.
Well, let's be honest. I mean, I'll say this, as just a cigar fan, cigar aficionado and stuff like that, like people pay for ad placement and just like any other business. And like you can, it's just like D Magazine. You can pay to have them rank you a top realtor in DFW or whatever.
We're living in the matrix.
Top doctor, top dentist. You can do that. Like some of these magazines, and I'm not just picking on Cigar Aficionado. I love Cigar Aficionado. It's a great read. I love to flip through it and read the interviews and stuff like that. Just like we said about Playboy. I'm reading it for the interviews. Yeah. So I mean, you have that aspect to it as well. Like I feel like a lot of people don't get as much justice. But then again, like, how do you expect him to get justice when he's going to put out his finest creation and it's super limited? Well, not everybody's going to put a rating on that, but because not everybody can get it, not everybody can smoke it.
Right.
So
so it's almost
it changes the game.
And in their defense, then it's not fair for the reader because it's like, oh, this is a top rated cigar, but you can't get it. Mm-hmm. Right. So it's hard to do. Now, also in their defense, the Byron has received a few ratings in the last. I don't know, maybe 6 months or so of 90, 91 on the Epique Poema, 92 on the Venecianos, I think. So.
I couldn't believe the one. I thought the guys were messing with me the first time. They're like, this cigar smells like blueberries. And I'm like, blueberries? Like, you're going to tell me that a Nelson-made cigar smells like blueberries? He's like, no, watch. I'm about to open this brand new box. Swear to God, it's going to smell like blueberries. Yeah. Sure as shit, smells like blueberries. Doesn't taste like blueberries when you smoke it, but when you first crack that box, if you were to buy a box,
and it's blueberry.
You get that like blueberry muffin, like Hostess package aroma that just hits you when you open it. It's amazing. All right, we got another question from Chris. This is going to circle back a little bit, but I'll let you answer this. Do you guys think women new to cigars start off with a stronger preference? I have found that to be a regular occurrence. Do you feel like women choose stronger cigars out the gate?
Well, that's interesting. I'd have to defer that to more the retail side because I don't see it. I think if if they do, there might be some that are just almost posturing a little bit because they're coming into a male-dominated industry, and it's like, I don't want to go in the lounge and smoke a flavored cigar.
Yeah.
I don't want to go in there and smoke a Connecticut. So I gotta smoke the biggest, strongest. I don't know the answer to that question. What they lean towards.
Okay. What's maybe another surprising moment you've had where it was like an aha moment or something, maybe outside of Nelson in the cigar industry, maybe something you thought was fact or fiction coming into the game that later on you learned was different, or just like a unique experience that you've had in your cigar journey?
I think looking at cigars and aging them, and when I was in Vegas, I got into more vintage cigars. Mm-hmm. So we had somebody that was coming in. They were giving us these pre-embargo cigars. Yeah. Pre-embargo, right? The Cuban embargo was in '62. Yeah. And then I learned that there was also pre-Castro cigars. So they were dating them. So we in the casinos, right? You could get away with there were hotel comps. So we had these cigars at a few hundred, $300 a cigar, but it was a cigar from the '60s, right? And it was a Cuban, but you could sell it because it was pre-embargo. So then I started getting into cigars that were just vintage cigars, and I was buying boxes at auctions because I was then turning those to the company I was working for, and I got they're okay. But I said, look, I picked up this box. I want to make money. You want to make money. Here's the price. We can sell it in the casino. It was a cigar that used to sell for 9 cents, right? And now it's more about the experience, because when I was in the cigar shops in the casinos, the hosts would come in and they had a high roller. They want something unique. They want to wow them. And at that time they're like, hey, can you get Cubans? And our company, we didn't deal with that. But there were companies and there were people that could get them access to Cuban boxes. So they would have high rollers. They wanted Cuban boxes. But then they were asking for something unique. Oh, this guy, he's already had this. Do you have anything unique? And we'd say, well, we have this pre-embargo. And I was like, well, what if we just get like a vintage? It could be a little bit less. We can, as a company, we can make money. So I started buying these cigars, and at one point it was just, I don't know how many, boxes on boxes that we were selling. So I was going to auctions and I was buying these cigars, and I was outbidding everybody because I knew that I could just get more. So it didn't matter to me. Almost didn't matter what the price was, because I knew that in our stores we were going to sell them for $100. So I was overvaluing the cigar, paying more, but I knew we could get more. So I say that because then with the cigars that I had, I kind of got out of it, but I still, as a collector, I still have about 10 boxes from 1920s, 30s, 40s. And there was one box that the cigar didn't have a band on it. It was called Buzzer, but it was from what I could research from the late 1800s. And I remember bringing it into ICC one night, and I think I had like 15. And I just said, look, we're gonna do something special, something different. And I think this was even before they had their little vintage section. But 15 of us sat down there, and Ron was here, Big John was here.
I've heard this story before.
I've never heard those guys so quiet. And, even Big John, as big as he is, this was like, back then it was a lot of perfectos, a lot of small 4.5.
Small little.
Like, he was burning his finger. He was just like this. There was this moment of just silence, and somebody broke it because they're like, well, I guess we're really all enjoying this, because it was just this moment. So for me, it was experiencing cigars from that long ago that still had some character to them. Some cigars age well. Nelson, by the way, doesn't use any pesticides. on his cigars. So cigars without the pesticides, they'll age better too for some reason. Because I've aged some cigars and they reach like this maturity, and it almost takes away from the experience. Because I open up this box. I won't say the brand, but I opened up this box and I was looking forward to it because it was one of my favorite cigars. And at the time when I bought them, they were still limited in production and availability. So I was buying two, and so I completed a box and I closed it. I set it aside, and maybe 10 years, 15 years later, I was like, okay, I want to smoke one. It was like cardboard. It was, tasted like just wet paper. And it was like, oh man, it lost everything. So there was this disappointment. But then, when I had those vintage cigars and that experience that night, I was like, these are phenomenal.
Yeah,
like,
I've
just different.
I've only done that once. I posted about this, man, it was probably about 2-3 months ago. I bought one of those. It's the first time I bought a vintage. Like, this is like a 120-year-old cigar.
Right.
I didn't know what to expect, but I wonder what that experience is like for you as well. I mean, you comment on this. Like, so for me, the cigar I bought was from 1905.
Oh, yeah.
So 120-year-old cigar. When you sit down and you actually light this thing and you start to smoke it, like you start thinking about, at least I did, all right, the guy that planted this seed,
right,
dead.
Right.
The guy that picked this and rolled this, dead.
Yeah.
The guy that sold this cigar to, United Cigars in 1905,
right. Gone.
Dead.
Right.
Like, it's like almost like you're smoking a ghost.
And how did that cigar get here?
And how did it get here?
Like, where did it travel to?
Where has this box set that had these 100-plus-year-old cigars that have stayed pristine, not lost humidity, not gone to shit, and then you're like thinking like, okay, how much flavor is a 100-year-old cigar still going to have? I was amazed because, like you said, the cigar was about, we'll call it 4 inches. Yeah.
Tiny ring
cigar,
gauge. Right.
Tiny ring gauge. It had amazing flavor still. Right. And I was just like, it's smooth beyond most cigars you've smoked.
Yeah.
But there's still a really good, even, middle-of-the-road flavor.
That keeps you interested. Right?
Keeps you interested. You're not overwhelmed. You're not underwhelmed. It just kind of stayed right in that lane. And it's just like, to me, it was like sitting there thinking about all these things. Like, what was the Nelson Alfonso that was like blending this thinking? How was he doing this 100 years ago?
Right.
That this cigar doesn't suck 100 years later. And people are paying $150 now to smoke this cigar.
Yeah, and you're smoking the nostalgia.
Yeah, you're smoking nostalgia.
And because part of it is if you smoked that same cigar but it was on the shelf because it was produced today, you'd probably be like, yeah, there's nothing to this
special.
But you're smoking from 1905, so you're taking your time with it, and I think that's what we need to reconnect to. Is it's about the experience and about just shifting gears down to almost park, right, and just stop for a second. Be outside in your car, listen to the rain hit the car, be in park, set yourself aside, and just kind of get distracted for a little bit.
Yeah.
For you, that parked car in the rain was 1905.
Yeah.
Smaller cigar that you probably wouldn't buy in the humidor today if it was a 4-inch cigar with a 44 ring gauge or whatever, right? It's not where you're going to go grab, but because of that history, like you wanted to experience it.
Yeah.
And I think that's where we need to get back to.
Actually, I am that guy because I'll go buy those smaller cigars because after a night like this on the podcast, and I've smoked 2 or 3 cigars, and I go home and I haven't seen my wife all day, and she wants to sit around and talk about our day and stuff, that's the perfect cigar for 45 minutes to go sit and smoke.
Depends on her day.
Yeah,
because if it's a longer day,
I might need one of them big long ones. It just depends.
Sometimes we need to vent.
Yeah, but I think there's you know, I agree with you a whole lot because I treat cigars a lot like music, and I know you're a big music aficionado. We go back and forth about concerts and stuff we're at, and you know, joking around about that stuff. One of my favorites was Friendsgiving at the Franks, where we everybody had a turn playing DJ, and we did that. That was an amazing night. That was so
cool.
much fun.
Yeah, that was.
And you got to see everybody's musical backgrounds and genres that they were really into, and introduced to a lot of new stuff.
Yeah.
I think cigars are very similar. You know, like, it's funny. People will ask, like, you know, what does Garrett want for his birthday or for Christmas? My wife will be like, go up to ICC and just get him some cigars or get him a gift certificate. Well, they'll come up here and ask, and they'll be like, what does Garrett like to smoke? Well, you just screwed up because I smoke a whole bunch of shit.
Right.
And I have guests on, and we're always trying new things, and I'm super open to, like, I want more experiences.
Right.
So they're like, oh, Garrett smokes everything in the humidor.
Right.
You're kind of screwed here. I mean, he buys the most of this, but outside of that, I don't know. So cigars can kind of be like music to me. Like, what mood am I in? Am I listening to a country song today?
Yeah.
Am I listening to 80s rock? Am I listening to
KRS-One?
metal? Am I listening to KRS-One? Damn you, Biz.
Sorry.
Yeah. No invite from Biz on that one. So, you know, I mean, I kind of look at it at, you know, different things. But, like, you see guys and I think it's guys my age, you know, I'm 44. You know, you grew up and you watched stuff like 101 Dalmatian, and you see Cruella de Vil with this, like, Lancero-looking thing with a tip on it. I think there's a lot of guys that are afraid to smoke a Lancero.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but a Lancero is one of the most flavorful, best rolled cigars. It takes a lot of talent to actually do that.
And it takes patience and...
but they're afraid to smoke them. Like, that's too feminine. Like, this long, thin cigar, like, it's feminine. I can't smoke that. Like, you're crazy. Like,
there's so much.
Some of the best cigars in the humidor are Lanceros. I mean, like, but you run into those people. So I think that, I think there needs to be a little more openness to just trying, like, enjoy it, like, try different things.
Yeah, no, 100%. Like, if you know, I still have my the CD album that, you know, all, you know, the catalog that, and then I just saw something on, you know, social media, you know, how dangerous it was to drive back then, because you're driving and then you have the album open because you're flipping through it, right? But yeah, I mean, you know, my daughter's beautiful, such a beautiful soul that, you know, she's well, both of my kids are me, because I've brainwashed them, but yeah, she loves music, she loves food, you know, so we have these experiences together, and she's looking through it and she's like, oh, you have this CD? And I was like, oh yeah, I saw them in concert. She's like, what? You know, and she just, like, all types, and everything from, you know, classical to, you know, Elvis to, you know, Nirvana to EPMD to, you know, I mean, just the gamut. But it just depends on the mood.
This man told me that him and his daughter watched Friday the other day, and that right there, you brought Father of the Year.
He does a lot of cool stuff with his kids. Like, I mean, we've talked about it. I mean, your son's really into baseball. You know, he just got college scholarship. He's playing ball in college now and all that stuff. So, like, you know, we've talked about a lot of these things too, you know, off the air when we're just hanging out. But, like, what's a concert that you went to see that your kids, your daughter or son, were like, no way, Dad, you did not see them? Like, what's the one that really blew their mind?
Well, so my son doesn't care as much about the music side of it.
He just wants to know about the Yankees games you went to as a kid.
And he knows that he, you know, hates the Yankees. His first, he cried. His first baseball team, I think he was 6. We were living in Vegas. He was on the Yankees, and when he found out, he literally, I mean, cried. And I felt bad. I'm like, well, I really
gotta love the Boston Yankee rivalry.
Man. Like, his whole room was, you know, Fenway Green, and his middle name's Fenway. But anyway, so for music, so my son not as much, and taking them on vacations is such a challenge because they both like different things. Like, we went to Clearwater Beach 2 years ago, and my daughter wants to be on the beach. My son doesn't. We went to see a baseball game. My daughter didn't really care about it. We go to a Brazilian steakhouse because he wants to eat meat. That was the most expensive dinner for my daughter because she just wanted the salad buffet, right? So for music, my daughter's great because she's been working at this French bakery for, I don't know, 4 years now or something. She's 18 now.
Okay.
And I remember I was driving from New Hampshire back to Cohasset, my home, and I saw this car pass by, and it had fins to the left, and I was like, oh man, I haven't seen Buffett in so long, and I was still a big Buffett fan. There was one guy that we were in here one night saying, who would you like to smoke with? And I said I wanted to smoke with Buffett. And fucking Grady, it was like, oh yeah, I smoked with him. I'm like, motherfucker,
yeah,
right?
Of course,
right,
Grady.
Of course, right?
The dinosaur of the lounge.
Damn
Grady
it.
smoked with them.
But so and I've seen him, 15 plus times, and just I just like the vibe, right?
Yeah.
So I see this, and I'm like, man, I've been meaning to go. Like let me see where he's going, and I find out he's playing that night in Mansfield, and I text my daughter, and I'm like, hey, do you want to go see Buffett tonight? She's like, absolutely, like without question. So she finishes work. I buy the tickets. We go. I bought lawn seats first because that's as growing up in Massachusetts, it was Great Woods and there were lawn seats, and that's what we could afford. And that was just a great time. That's where everybody was.
Yeah. That's where the party's at.
Right. So I bought lawn seats just because, and then I'm like, what am I doing? Like, I'm an adult. So I bought tickets, and we were like 9 rows back, and I go, this is her first concert. She knows how much I love Buffett. So she went to the concert with me, and she absolutely loved it. But my experience with both of them, she was upset that I saw Santana, Allman Brothers, and then living in Vegas, I had the advantage where everybody was coming to town.
Yeah.
And I missed, I guess because I was spoiled, right? Everybody was coming. I missed James Brown, but I saw B.B. King, I saw John Lee Hooker. There were some that I saw, I was like, I'm going to go. And then these other guys, they were just coming so often. I was like, oh, I'll catch them later. Never did. Prince I saw for a little bit. I should have stayed.
One of the best concerts I've ever seen in my life.
Prince
is so
such a talent, like crazy. But again, brainwashing. When I was dropping my daughter off for daycare and then driving my kid to school, I would always play Zach Brown when he first the first album came out. So I would always play that, and it was the Chicken song, not Chicken Fried, but the Chicken song, which is just kind of a funny song if you know it. But this past summer I got tickets for Zach Brown, and that was the day after Buffett passed. And so he did a tribute to him. So it was just a connection for us. We tailgated, and it was such for me, it's a memory that's going to last, but such a special moment for us to see that 17 years later from when they were introduced to it. To see it, and it was pretty special. And then my son and I in December we took a trip to the Dominican for his birthday. So I was doing work, he was going. We saw a couple baseball games, and we ended up getting tattoos, matching tattoos of 2 beach chairs right here with a sunset. It just says "Life is good today," because he said that life is good today is meaning for him in life, but also that he's like, that just reminds me of us, and that's Zach Brown. So
that's awesome.
It was a pretty special moment. So I try to introduce them and have those experiences where it's not a sheltered life. Life isn't just this town. Like there's so much more out there, and it's get off the phone and let's go experience it. Yeah. Right. So there's some pretty special moments that I have with them that I want to share with them.
That's awesome, man. Well, you made my day on Sunday when I was having a really shitty weekend, and you reached out to me because you and I talked about this about 2 years ago at Friendsgiving.
Right.
We never talked about it again. I was just like, hey, man, whenever it works for you and me, let's sit down and do this. Yeah. And you reached out on Sunday, and you're like, I'm going to be in town. I'm like, we're going to make this happen. I mean, it made my day because you and I get to sit down. We've smoked cigars together. We've shared some experiences. We've had a good time, but to sit down and do this with you, man, I'm truly blessed. I appreciate your friendship, and I'm grateful you came out here and did this. But, there's a lot to be said about, what the cigar community does and how it brings people together.
Yeah, yeah.
And, I'm super jealous because I agreed to go on this family trip to Vegas. I'm in Vegas the 16th through the 20th.
Oh, so you just
So I found out that I'm missing PCA, which I've always wanted to go to by like two days.
Yeah.
2 days
Oh,
I'm
man.
missing this. But for any of you that are more fortunate than me that are going to PCA, please go by and see this man. I'm guarantee he's going to be floating around.
Open invite.
Yeah, go hang out with him. Go check out the cigars. I'm sure Nelson's going to be there and a lot of other great people. I mean, maybe Nelson's going to be there.
So that's a whole nother story. Unfortunately, not.
Okay.
So
He's not going to be there this year?
No, he doesn't know Booth. So last year during PCA, he was. So his family was out last year for PCA.
Yeah.
And they learned right at that moment that Spain had changed like this. This law where Cuban-born citizens had to reapply for their visas.
Okay.
So, and it was going to take about a year, and then they were worried about even getting back into Spain. So his wife left early, the kids left early, and it was, like I said, it was going to be about a year. But PCA was then pushed forward. So instead of July, it was moved to March. So he said, we spoke with the directors, we had a meeting. We said, so we don't lose our points, our seniority, right?
Yeah.
Right for when you do booth selection.
Yeah.
Said, look, we want to be here, but we can't pick a booth if he's not going to be here. And they're like, okay, well, we understand, and these are different circumstances, so we understand. So he didn't do a booth, but he was like, I'll still try to be there and be in the United booth, and we can do something. But
because normally that Atabey booth is one of the biggest, baddest.
Man, I've seen the
nicest.
pictures, and it's like the creme de la creme.
I'll be walking around doing stuff, and I just come in there to hang out in the corner sometimes. Hey, what you doing, Oliver? It's really nice.
Yeah, he's got, so for people to understand, it's a 40 feet by 50 feet. It's a 40 by 50
It's a building.
footprint. Yeah.
When
makes
we
a
do
small
our trade
building.
shows for the record, we have a 10 by 10 booth.
Right.
No,
So,
you
It's
walk-
about the size of this.
It's literally a small building built inside of this thing with all the different corners and
and it
the
looks like a
displays.
cigar museum.
Yes, it's dope. It's dope.
Everything's lit up. He's got little podiums where they're encased in glass, so you can showcase everything. So it's it's a beautiful booth. It feels like you're stepping away from the show when you step into the booth.
Yes.
So unfortunately he's not even going to be able to make it.
Okay.
So United Cigars, we still have our booth and we'll showcase his product, but it won't be, obviously it's not going to be the same because one, he has so many products to display.
Yeah.
And we have so many products.
25 labels.
And we have a 20 by 30 booth. So we have a large footprint as well, but we have a lot of product that we're going to show. So we have to, we'll figure out where it's
Either way, if you're there, go see United Cigars.
Please
Stop
do.
by, have a cigar, see my man, enjoy your time there. I'm super jealous. Right. Tag me in the pictures, whatever. I'll give you the big because I'm not there. But, so we'll do this again,
But you'll
hopefully,
have a good time,
in the near future. We got to, we're running a little bit over here, but we started a little bit late.
Right,
but two things. We wrap up the show with two questions every time. But I do have to pause, and I'm going to be the Debbie Downer, bring the conversation down a little bit here because I want to talk about this again. You guys have all known, you see my post, my good friend Naz, who is battling stage 4 cancer, had surgery today. Surgery went well. He's well on his way to recovery from surgery number 1 that we know of right now. He's doing well, but like you guys all know, March 30th at Will Call Bar in Deep Ellum, I'm hosting a charity fundraiser event for him. Please come out, enjoy it. We're going to have great bands playing all day, music, food, drinks. It's going to be a great time. We're going to have a big silent auction where we're going to be giving away things. We're going to have a silent auction to raise more money for him. I can guarantee you there's going to be cigars. There's going to be all kinds of cool stuff I've been donating. If you have something, no matter how big or small, please reach out, DM me, hit me up. It all helps. I mean, I have everything being donated right now from sports games to memorabilia to cigars to horseback riding lessons to personal training, rolfing. I don't even know what that is. It's some kind of massage or something. I really don't know.
I don't know why I'm looking at it. I just feel like you would know what that is.
Yeah, we're all looking at Biz right now because of the look on his face.
Now, I know some things, but I don't know. I thought just like spelunking. You said massage. I'm like, hell, I'm lost.
His wife does triathlon training, so we have like a gift certificate for like a VO2 test. Whether you're running or cycling, we have you can do even like a fitting. I mean, we've said all kinds of stuff. So like every little bit helps. So if you guys have something, if you're a business owner that you can donate, you want to do gift cards, whatever, we're going to put all this stuff out there and hopefully raise a good amount of money so that when he has times like right now where he is obviously laid up and cannot be training people, he doesn't have to worry about providing for his son Jackson or his wife, you know. So please come out, support the event. If you have something you want to donate or you want to be a part of it in some way, if you can't be there and would like to donate, on the event page, we've posted the Venmo that we're going to be using for same thing. The event's free of charge. You can come out. All we ask is if you can donate, make a donation like you're paying a cover to go see your favorite band. You know, every little bit helps. So however you want to look at that, go for it. But that's what we're doing. We hope you guys will all come out and support the event.
I'll get your address after this, and we'll send you.
All right,
something
cool deal.
Special.
Well, you got to send me because I'm calling bullshit on Josh Sims. He says he has one of those tubes you were talking about earlier.
Oh,
Cutter. Yeah. I'm calling bullshit. Josh ain't been around long enough to have one of those. If I haven't seen it,
I'm going to look at the comments and stare at it while you get to 2 questions because you know
mine's
Josh
about
is
to
going
die, so I'm not even going to be able to see him. But
he's going to say something here any moment.
If he wants to chime in, let him go. But there's no way in hell you have one of those, Josh. I'm calling absolute bullshit. All right, now the 2 questions we ask everybody because it's Common Sense the podcast. First question: if you could leave your son and daughter with one piece of advice, what would that piece of advice be?
Well, it's forget the artist, but it's a song, and it's stay humble and kind.
Absolutely,
and they know the song. And I've preached it, and I've told them, and that's it. Stay humble.
Stay humble and stay kind. That's
humble
great
and
advice,
kind.
no matter how you look at life.
Yeah.
All right, last one. So since it's called Common Sense,
right?
You get to give us your 2 cents, and this could be anything. It could be something I didn't ask you that you wanted to talk about. It could just be something that's on your mind, something you've been thinking about while you were traveling. This is just Oliver's 2 cents on life, cigars, whatever.
It's only worth a cent, but it's my 2 cents.
All right, we'll take your 1 cent. We'll add it up, but it's my 2 cents out of it.
Scratch them together.
Yeah.
Sorry. What was it? My 2 cents on
whatever. It's your platform.
Whatever.
You're open mic right now. You get a freestyle. You get to play your own song right now.
Yeah. I guess my 2 cents is don't take life too seriously. I think we get too wound up. We're all torqued up, and it relates back to staying humble and kind. And say because my son's in his freshman year, all he wants to do is play, right? And I said grades are the first, right? And you got to balance the 2. But he just goes through a hard time because he just wants to be out there. But he's a freshman.
Yeah.
So being a freshman, going through the freshman hazing and the upperclassmen just kind of beating on the freshmen. And he's like yeah, I just can't do that. People they make not that they make fun of him, but he's like they tease me because I'm so nice. They're like, why are you so nice? And that's just the way I brought him up.
Yeah,
like don't let yourself be taken advantage of, but stand your ground, but be there to serve others. Right?
Stay humble, be kind.
Stay humble and be kind. Like he's opening doors. He's helping people. I see him. I just catch him. Like if we're on a flight, he's helping somebody with their luggage to put it up. He's helping his friends at school, and we're here for a short amount of time, and there's no, unless you're being taken advantage of, no reason to put someone else down to try to build yourself up. It doesn't do anything. It's not a solid foundation.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Well, man, I've greatly enjoyed sitting down with you. Thank you so much for coming to us. Yeah, we got it done this time. Time 2 was the hit.
Around it.
Well, thank you guys so much for joining us on Common Sense the podcast. I hope you guys enjoyed this show. I greatly enjoyed this, sitting down with my good friend Oliver. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Next week we'll be back. You will have Bob Duff next week. We're going to go through back to the multifamily industry, and we're going to talk a little bit more about that. So I hope you guys will join us for that as well. But until then, stay safe and be safe. Peace.